Hello and welcome to Follow the Whispers podcast. My name is Ellie and I created this space with a dream of having an output where we can explore our story and stories of people who follow those whispers of their soul, as well as whatever is coming up for us as we navigate through life, its shifts and its changes. I hope this space is where you truly feel seen, heard and supported. Welcome. I am so happy that you are here. Let's dive in. Hello and welcome back to Follow the Whispers podcast. I am currently in Koh Phangan in Thailand, which is a really beautiful island in the south of Thailand. It's a very spiritual island. Some believe that it's like the island is on the rose quartz, which is quite interesting. Whether it's true or not, but when you go to the beach, especially one that I'm living quite nearby, you go to the beach and you can see rose quartz everywhere, in the sand, in the water. And I remember the first time I saw that, it was such a beautiful moment, such a beautiful experience, one that I think I will always remember, because I remember wondering to myself, like, wow, imagine seeing crystals in nature, imagine seeing them in the sand or whatever. And yeah, that's what happened. So the first time I saw them was last year when I was here on the same island, just over a year ago. And I came back here at the end of September. So as I was recording the previous episodes of this podcast, I was saying how I'm giving myself time to really sit with what I want to do next, where I want to go, as I was meant to be in India, and everything started shifting and everything started changing. And after I gave myself time to sit with it, to really, really dive deep within and tap into how I feel and what is it that I want to do, where do I want to go, it became, there are a lot of puppies around, by the way, hence you can hear the dogs. It became very clear that I want to come back to Thailand, and that was an option. That was actually the plan, to come here after India. And India didn't happen, but I flew straight to Thailand, and arriving back here felt absolutely incredible. And I find it really interesting and really funny how, whether it comes to Instagram or even this, apparently, when I'm in my very kind of high vibe state and very happy and everything's amazing, I don't necessarily post as much, which is so interesting, because I don't know if this is just the way I see it or if that's actually what I do, like how other people see it too. But sometimes I feel like on my Instagram, my stories, I often post things about me feeling low or whatever, and it's because I'm very careful to not sell this lifestyle as this incredible, picture perfect, way of living. And, you live on a paradise island and everything's beautiful and everything's great. And you see this a lot here, and that that's not the case. That everybody's going through stuff. And wherever you are in the world, whether you're back at home, wherever the home is, whether you're on this paradise island, there's always going to be stuff that you go through. And it's actually something that I have been asking myself a lot, because don't get me wrong, but living in a place like this where there's a lot of yoga schools, there's a lot of meditation and everything, there's a lot of people coming here who are very keen and aware, I guess. They're very keen to do their work. They are very keen to dive deep within and really connect to themselves. And to do that, you need to go through a lot of releasing. And this is what the whole healing idea is, right? That you hear so much about on Instagram, and I feel like everyone's talking about it now. You know, the healing, like what is this healing that everyone talks about? And I remember I made an Instagram post like 2 years ago, probably 3 years ago actually, where I explained like what is this healing that everyone talks about. And you know, it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to dive into, but it requires a lot of work, a lot of patience, a lot of compassion to yourself, especially when it's connected to our ego and things, like the way we see things, why do we get triggered and so on. And it's all these different patterns that all of us have, but unless we are aware of that, unless we give ourselves the space to sit with it, we might not necessarily see it. You know, I mean, I look at myself before I was doing any of this, and I wasn't really aware of why I was feeling a certain way. You know, if I would be angry or sad, I wasn't really aware why. And it wasn't really something that I wanted to dive into. You know, I didn't want to feel sad. I didn't want to feel angry. And that actually itself put these layers of protection that now I'm working on releasing, I guess. You know, we get to certain points in our life where we know that it's time to release certain things, certain patterns, certain beliefs that are not needed anymore. As we grow older, as we learn more, as we experience more, you know, we release all these different patterns, beliefs that we put on ourselves to keep ourselves safe. And especially if you're someone who had a difficult childhood, and I know many people did, and to be honest, I don't think there is a perfect childhood. You know, even if it's a perfect childhood, that's also not great, because that does not prepare you for life, you know. And so when you meet certain people, you don't really know how to be strong. And I can imagine, right, if you're growing up in the perfect environment and everything, and I don't think that's ever probably the case, but you know, parents who are really aware, parents that truly care, and they do everything to make it as easy for you as possible. Imagine then going into adulthood and meeting people that are very difficult and potentially, you know, quite triggering, and you might not know how to deal with that because you never had to experience that before. So yeah, I think there's always work to do. I think there's always certain beliefs and patterns to be worked through and released and become aware of in the first place. And so I question it sometimes, you know, would it be easier to just not be aware of any of this and just kind of not see this, not think about this, and just live the life without looking at any of this healing work? But then, and I talked about this with my friends, and we always come to the same conclusion, that it's like, no, we wouldn't want to be, I guess it would feel almost like blind to what's happening. You know, I mean, our subconscious basically runs our lives. Like 99.7 or 0.9% is our subconscious, you know, the way we live our lives. Unless we come back to our conscious mind, to our conscious way of being, it's the subconscious running the show. And it's actually pretty incredible to look into. And if this is something that you're interested in, you can look at Dr. Bruce Lipton. His work is absolutely incredible. And the way he explains everything is very, very easy to understand. And yeah, very, very interesting. And so anyway, you know, as I'm here and as I'm recording this, you can hear my voice probably. You know, a few days ago I got a cold, and it's so funny how, yeah, here I am recording this after I got a cold again, you know, but hear me out. And so 2 days ago I had a phone conversation which actually triggered a lot in me. Not triggered necessarily, but brought a lot to the surface. And I didn't realize until the next day. But what was interesting is straight after that phone call, which was actually a beautiful, beautiful phone call. It was with my ex-partner who we had a beautiful life together, you know, and I thought I gave myself enough space to really sit with it all and kind of hold myself and help myself release whatever was there to release. And of course there's so much. Of course, when you spend your life with someone, I mean, part of your life, you know, this person is such an important part of your life. And it's not easy to just all of a sudden step away from it and be okay. Of course there are things that you have to deal with. Of course there are things that you have to sit with. There are feelings that you have to let to be felt, you know, to feel, to sit with them, emotions. It's so important to hold yourself when you feel a certain way, when you feel emotions. And it's actually why I wanted to record this in the first place, this podcast, because after that phone call, soon after, I got a really strong headache, and I don't really get headaches often. And as I went to bed, I felt like, oh wow, I think I'm getting a cold. I felt really under the weather and I could barely sleep. And next day, as I got up, I went to get a massage, and after the massage I realized, like, wow, it's not just me having a cold. It's literally my body releasing what's there to release still. You know, there were still things that I was holding on to. And don't get me wrong, it's been, I mean, officially like a year. But the whole thing lasted a little longer, you know, the transition. And there was still things that I had to sit with that I wasn't aware of. And it hit me so strongly. And when I realized that, and I realized how absolutely incredible our bodies are, you know, my body started releasing or feeling, you know, it before even my mind could catch up with it, before I even put two and two together. And as I was sitting with it, I started feeling so much sadness. And I'm actually so proud of myself for realizing that and for holding space. And I spent like probably at least half of the day just crying, you know, like laying on this hammock here and just feeling, simply sitting with what I felt and all the questions that were coming up, you know. And it's scary questions too. What if, like, was this the right thing, you know, that happened? You know, there are big, big questions. You start questioning everything, not only the past relationship, but also yourself. You know, what are you doing and where are you heading? And, you know, when you had this, and I always kind of explain, you know, when the separation was happening, it felt like there were just two ways. There was one way, which was staying in that relationship, in that life, and having a rough idea of what's going to happen, right? Having a rough idea of what it will look like, of course. And then there was the other way, which was not staying together and not knowing anything, heading completely into the darkness, basically. like the womb, you know, of death and rebirth. That's the only way I can explain it, and trust me, that is exactly how it felt. You know, they say that darkness is actually a beautiful space to be, because the womb, the space where we are created in the first place, is the space of creation. It's the space of new beginnings, and it's the space of birth. Whether it's your creations, whether it's our life, everything begins in the darkness. And so it's a very beautiful thing to think about, and it is a beautiful space to be, but it's also a very scary space to be. It's freaking scary. And when I was in that space, yeah, I don't want to go too much into it, but it was difficult. Gosh. And so I've worked a lot on that. I wanted to be very conscious of how I was feeling, of the choices that I was making afterwards, and what was happening afterwards. I didn't want to just forget about, not even forget about certain things, but I didn't want to just distract myself. So I was extremely conscious. Like the last year, I feel like I've been in my own therapy, you know? And it was because I believe that unless we allow ourselves to sit with that, unless we allow ourselves to really go through it, it's going to catch up with us at some point anyway. And so we might as well sit with it at the beginning while it's still raw and fresh, than distracting ourselves and then it catching up with us like years later, you know? Because the body is so intelligent. The body holds everything. There's a book called The Body Holds the Score. I will put it in the description. It talks a lot about how our bodies hold on to trauma, really hold on to certain emotions, past events that we go through. And it's incredible to look at that and then look at my own life and see how certain things would trigger certain ways that I would feel. And so I definitely encourage you to look at that, to look back at your life and see, or even not back at your life, but if you do get triggered by certain things, really sit with that and breathe into that. Actually breathe into that, like sit with it and ask yourself, why do I feel like that? Let's say you feel really angry with someone. Why do I feel angry with that person? Why? Feel where is the anger coming from? And simply sit with it. Allow yourself to sit with that anger. It's almost as if you're holding space for your friend. Imagine that this emotion is your friend. Sit with it, welcome it, ask it why. What is it trying to show you? What is it trying to tell you? And I know it may sound really crazy and bizarre, but then think about how crazy and bizarre it is that it does sound crazy and bizarre, you know? It's our emotions, it's our bodies. And when did we become so detached from that even simply thinking about it might sound crazy, you know? And so, you know, after really sitting with it, just crying my eyes out and questioning everything. And it was exactly the same thoughts and questions that were being triggered and put up to the surface as I had at the very beginning of that. So when the separation began. And it's so interesting that this time it felt kind of like more on the it wasn't on the outside, but it felt as if it was more on the layers, on the outside layers. I don't know if that makes sense, but this is how it felt looking back at it now. Anyway, so that was a pretty tricky day, and yesterday I gave myself time and space to really sit with it. And today I woke up feeling in such different energy. As after yesterday, thinking about things that did not go so right, because when you're in this space, it's hard for you to think about the bad things or the things that did not make you happy, the things that were a little tricky or difficult, and you only think about the good things. And I gave myself space to be reminded of the things that, why that happened in the first place, why this change had to occur, and why my life has changed in such a drastic way. And after allowing that to come through, I woke up today with this different energy, and it made so much sense in my head. Like, wow, this is why it happened, it's this closure, this stuff coming up to the surface so that I can release it. And the fact that I allowed myself to sit with it, the fact that I allowed myself to really allow those emotions to come up and out and release. It helped my body to let go. And so today it felt almost like a new me in a way. And I decided that I will do a cacao ceremony, which I actually haven't done in a while. And as I was doing my cacao ceremony, I was picking things for my altar, my ceremony. And what was very interesting is that in March, I went to Bali. As I went to Bali, I knew there's a massive transformation that's beginning. There's a massive cycle is beginning to close. And there were other things that were happening in my life at the time as well. It wasn't just this situation that I spoke about, and it's the first time that I spoke about this situation anywhere. And so as I went to Bali right before, I started seeing snakes. Just symbols of snakes, not actual snakes in real life. And the first day that I arrived in Bali, I'm driving a scooter with this other person that I just met. And as we were slowly driving on our road, a snake goes in front of us and crosses the road right in front of me. And it was a green snake, and there are a lot of those in Bali, but I heard that they only show up for you when you're ready to see them, when you're meant to see them. A lot of people don't ever see them. They really want to see them. Some people are very scared of them and they will see them, and so on. And so it was so interesting to see it. And the best thing about it was that I stopped and I looked and I was like, whoa. And when you can feel that something is very powerful, it's not just me simply seeing a snake. No, this is a very important symbol in a way. And after that day, I think it was the next day or 2 days later, I go to my favorite jewelry shop, and I knew exactly the necklace that I wanted to get, and it was the Ouroboros. I don't know if that's how you pronounce it, but basically it's the snake. It's this one. Don't know if you can see. So you can see that it's a snake eating its own tail. It's a very old symbol. It's a very beautiful symbol of shedding our own skin, shedding the layers that don't serve us anymore, shedding the layers that are ready to be released. And so I knew that they had this necklace and I wanted to get it for some reason. I never had anything with snakes before. But seeing that snake 2 days before, it felt very symbolic in a way. And so I go into that shop, and what was interesting is that this actually was the only necklace that they had on sale. Not only that, I went to pick a card. So they had these tarot cards. I mean, they weren't tarot cards, but oracle cards with spirit animals in them. And so I pick a card, and the card that comes up is this snake, the Ouroboros. That's how you say it. Exactly the same symbol. Identical. And it said, shedding the old skin. And as I saw that, and the lady that was working there, she was like, whoa, this is crazy, you know? And another interesting thing was that I was in a hospital like a month earlier, and I developed this rash. And the rash, when it was healing, so it would heal and then come back, and it would heal and come back again. Every time it would heal, it looked like the skin of the snake shedding in a way. It was so interesting. And there was all these interesting connections, you know, that I was making. And of course one can say, oh, you know, it's all a coincidence, but I'm kind of someone that believes in synchronicities, but I also question it, you know. It's not like I'm just blindly gonna believe in stuff. But the most important thing is when it feels symbolic, when it feels more powerful than what it usually would feel, that's how I know that there's more to it. And so anyway, I bought this necklace, and I knew it's a very powerful symbol for me, and I knew it's going to be very, symbolic. And anyway, I've been wearing it almost every day, and a few days ago I thought, you know what, maybe it's time for me to stop wearing this, because I'm kind of done with all this shedding. I'm kind of done with all this work. I kind of just want to release and just start a new chapter. I'm done with it. And that was maybe like 4 days ago. Next day, I'm speaking with a friend, and she said, Ellie, literally as I'm typing this text, a green snake fell onto my stomach. I was under a tree and the snake just fell onto my stomach. So what does that even mean anything? Straight away my eyes went onto my necklace, which I stopped wearing like a day before. And next day the conversation happened, and then I got the cold and I started feeling a lot. And today, as I started my ceremony, I picked this, right? And I didn't plan to pick it, but it felt very symbolic. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna pick this. Today is the day of releasing. I feel like it's very powerful. So I picked this necklace and I put it on my mat. And I was doing my cacao ceremony. And if you don't know what cacao ceremony is, it's basically just a space that you hold for yourself. For me, it looks like drinking ceremonial cacao, meditating, potentially writing in my journal. I mean, always writing in my journal, sometimes chanting, different things, whatever flows, right? And so as I'm sitting here on this terrace, which is surrounded by trees, all of a sudden, I hear the dogs barking, but really loud, and they were going crazy. And I stand on the chair to see what's going on, to look through the trees. And you know when your eyes are trying to adjust? So I was trying to adjust my eyes so that I can see behind the trees, past the trees. And then I see something moving in the tree. And then I look, and there's a green snake on that tree. And I know there are snakes on the island. I know I live in nature. I know it can happen. But I haven't seen any snakes ever here on this island. I've barely ever seen snakes, you know. And the fact that my friend saw the snake just fall on her belly the other day, the fact that this has been coming up a lot, the fact that I wanted to stop wearing it, and all the stuff that's been happening. And then I see a snake just right next to me, the tree next to me, and it was so incredible because it felt as if the time has stopped for a while, and I could get closer to that snake. And I looked at it, and I studied the patterns of it, how long it is, how it was moving, and the way it was moving. And before it actually started moving, I could see its head. It felt as if it's like looking at me, and I was like, whoa, you know. And there was a little bit of, I don't know if it's even fear. It was just a little of caution, but then it felt so powerful. And as I was standing there, like looking at that snake, I had tears in my eyes because it felt so just like, wow, you know, is this actually happening? Am I seeing it right now during my ceremony, you know? Wow, out of all the times that I could have seen a snake, I'm seeing it right now. And I was just looking at it. And then it starts moving, and the way it was moving, it was so calm, but then it was so fierce. It's this like calm and fierce energy. And it's this energy that I realize I've been trying to, I don't want to say create, I know it's within me. I've been trying to kind of step into that energy. Being calm, present, but also fierce. Someone that knows how powerful they are, how strong they are. And it's something that I kind of pushed down a lot a while ago. And it's something that I've been kind of bringing up to the surface more, remembering it, allowing myself to step back into that energy. And it's been such a beautiful experience. And after this situation, you know, after a while, the snake just kind of like moved away, and I sit back on my mat and I grab this and I just started sobbing. I was like, wow, you know. And the reason why I'm recording this is because I really believe that allowing ourselves to sit with how we feel makes all the difference. If I didn't allow myself the space to feel whatever was coming up, if I didn't allow myself to just simply cry and sit with it, those emotions would still be stuck, I think. And yeah, my body going through, like having a cold, like my body, I started finally accepting that my body is just so sensitive and it feels a lot. And the same thing happened, I mean, a lot stronger with the whole India situation. And you know, when I had to cancel a few hours before the flight, and you can listen to the episode called Why I Cancelled My Kundalini Yoga Teacher Training. I will link it below in the description. You know, my body, like I knew with my whole body that I should not be going, but I still felt like it would be such a failure if I don't go. And I pushed it so far that all the stress from feeling this feeling of like, no, you should not go, it felt extremely nerve-wracking and scary and very stressful, to the point where I ended up in the hospital literally, because I put my body through so much. And it's almost as if my body had to stop me physically from going, but also was a way of my body just really clearing it out and feeling it. And it's actually, yeah, just thinking how powerful our bodies are. It's incredible. And I guess it's just a little reminder, if you are going through something, and I know so many people are going through a lot right now. I mean, always, but especially now, there's so much going on in the world. And I do think that whatever is going on in the world is also reflecting something within us as well. Allow yourself to sit with how you feel. Give yourself that space. You know, when you feel all these emotions coming up, it's not difficult to just sit and allow yourself to cry. When you feel angry, it can be easy to, I mean, however we feel, it's so easy to distract ourselves and we want to go on our phones or whatever. Stop yourself then and ask why. Why am I distracting myself from feeling? If something is there, why am I covering it up? Why am I not allowing it to come up? Why am I not just simply sitting with it? Why am I just picking up my phone, you know? So I definitely recommend you just kind of asking yourself those questions and allow yourself to sit with those emotions and feel. Simply feel. There's no pressure to do anything other than feel. And then you might feel like you want to journal. And very often people ask me, but what do you journal? Like, what do you write? When I don't know what to write, I will just start writing. I'm not sure what to write, but here I am, holding the space, blah, 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 and then it just flows, you know? But a lot of the time when we sit with these emotions, things just start making sense. And all of a sudden, when we start writing, there's so much that we can write about as we realize stuff. And the more we write, the more we realize more and more and more and more things. And the clarity that comes from that, yeah, it's just incredible. So yeah, at the end of my ceremony today, after the snake situation, there was a massive butterfly that flew across here and was flying around here, and that was also a beautiful symbol for me, you know. It feels very special, and I hope that in some ways this episode, me sharing really vulnerably, can help you in some ways, that you can relate to it in some ways. And yeah, you know, even when you feel happy, like I've been feeling happy here ever since I arrived, you know, so happy, it's so good to be back here, and then it hits you all of a sudden, and it's like, wow, where did that come from, you know? And it doesn't matter where you are, it can hit you. And so wherever you are, whatever you do, allow yourself to simply be and feel the love towards yourself that you would to anyone else, you know, to your friends. I mean, you're the first person that you need to respect, appreciate, have compassion towards. If you don't give that to yourself, how can you give that to other people and still have that yourself? Recently I saw this lady, she's a healer here on the island, and I'm very wary of healers. I've had some crazy experiences, interesting experiences, which I probably should definitely record episodes about this. But she said something to me that's really beautiful. She's like, now it's time for you to do 50-50. Stop giving all your energy to other people. Give 50% to yourself and 50% to other people. Do not give less than 50% to yourself. How else are you going to function? How else can you help others? How else can you hold space for others, be there for others, if you cannot even hold that space for yourself, you know? And it was such a beautiful reminder. I'm sending you so much love. Let me know what you thought about this. Let me know if this resonated with you in any way. If you have any questions or simply just want to share, you can comment below if this is on YouTube, or send me a message on Instagram or whatever. Yes, I'm sending you lots of love. Bye.